So this Amazon Lord of the Rings show, The Rings of Power, has been very embarrassing for Amazon. It's been many things for Amazon, but none of them being positive. And it's not just referring to the fact that they're going to lose viewership, that they might lose a lot of subscribers to Prime Video because people are attempting to boycott Prime Video and boycott the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power show. It's not just because of that, but also just the reactions from the fan base has been extremely overwhelmingly negative. It's been people trying to, like I said, boycott, people trying to ratio, people just saying that they really disagree with the decisions that are being made in the show. And it's not just because people hate diversity. It's not just because people hate inclusion, because I think a lot of us, most of us, I would say, would be able to agree that inclusion and diversity are inherently good things. They're not inherently negative things. They're definitely a positive for the most part. But whenever they're done in bad faith, whenever they're done for the reasons that Amazon Prime Video and the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power show are doing them, it's not a good thing. Because, like I said, it's done in bad faith. It's done for the wrong reasons. This article is from tsl.news. Opinion: backlash against race swapping in the Rings of Power misses the point. No, I don't think the backlash misses the point. I think that the actual race swapping itself definitely misses the point. Because the point in making a show like this, the point of continuing the Lord of the Rings legacy, is to make good Lord of the Rings content, right? It's not to modernize Lord of the Rings. It's not to make Lord of the Rings more like real life, like they're going to claim in one of these other articles, which is an absolute ridiculous argument, by the way, and I'll explain exactly why that's so unbelievably ridiculous. It's the worst argument you could possibly make for something like this. But anyway, the backlash doesn't miss the point. The actual race swapping itself definitely misses the point, because Peter Jackson had it right, where he said the only thing that they were doing, the only thing that they were focused on while they were making the Lord of the Rings movies was to honor Tolkien, honor Tolkien's legacy, and honor Tolkien's work. That's it. They weren't trying to inject their own politics. They weren't trying to inject their own agendas. They didn't care about their own philosophies when it comes to filmmaking or when it comes to storytelling. They only cared about Tolkien's work, and that's it. And that's why those movies were so successful. And that's very rare nowadays for that to be the case. It's very rare for someone like Peter Jackson, or for a director to be like Peter Jackson, in the sense that they don't care about their own philosophies. They don't care about their own agendas or anything like that. And even if the director does not care about their own philosophies or agendas, a lot of other people, the writers, the producers, might care about their own. So it's very rare that everyone on the set, like the Lord of the Rings, just was very selfless in the fact that they just wanted to honor Tolkien's work. That's it. That's all they wanted to do. And obviously make money off of it. That's a given. But they were really trying to respect the art that Tolkien already put out. And this Amazon show, this Rings of Power show, is not doing that. They're race swapping for the wrong reasons. There's really no right reason in the sense of Lord of the Rings to race swap, but there are right reasons to add diversity and inclusion in other shows and other IPs, just not this one. It just doesn't make sense for this one. Let's go on to this other argument that's just absolutely ridiculous. This article from The Conversation says Lord of the Rings debunking the backlash against non-white actors in Amazon's new adaptation. J.R.R. Tolkien's much-loved fantasy, The Lord of the Rings, is a work of epic scale, portraying races of imaginary beings in all the medieval-esque setting of Middle Earth, culminating in a battle of good against evil. Peter Jackson's film adaptations in the early 2000s established the iconography and aesthetics that many fans grew up with and consider almost sacred. They definitely do consider it almost sacred. They're definitely right about that. But remember this part about portraying races of imaginary beings in the medieval-esque setting of Middle Earth. Remember that part. That's very important. Now, Amazon's new adaptation of Tolkien's world is coming to our screens in September. The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, recent reports, and a newly released trailer have revealed more details about plot lines, ramping up the anticipation. I don't know so much about ramping up the anticipation, more like ramping up the fear. People being scared of what's going to happen next when it comes to this show. But they go on to talk about how Tolkien has never actually specifically detailed the appearances of all of these characters and stuff like that. But that's completely a lie. And I'll go into why later. I'll go into more detail about that later, because there's just not enough time to read this entire article. But they talk about how he's never specifically said or detailed the appearance of every single character. And that's just not true, but we'll go into that later. Second, even if Tolkien had specified that all the elves, dwarves, and hobbits were white, it still wouldn't matter. Adaptations are original cultural products that can imitate, question, rewrite, or interpret source material in various ways. That's a problem. That's a big problem right there. Let's be real. What are adaptations nowadays mostly gauged on for their success? It's how accurate the adaptation was to the source material. That's pretty much what people gauge it on now, and always have. The difference is, before they actually attempted to make it more like the original than they do nowadays. Today, it's like, how much can we possibly get away with changing this without people being mad at us? And the answer is pretty much zero. You pretty much have zero tolerance for changing things now because you've done it so many times. And like I said, you do it in bad faith. You're changing the race of these characters for what? For what? It's simply to please these Twitter weirdos who aren't going to consume your content in the first place. So why are you doing that? They're not going to make you money. They're not going to get you more views. They're not going to get you more Prime subs because they don't have any money. And then not enough people out there who think that way to make you that much money. So why are you trying to appease these weirdos? I still can't for the life of me understand it. But adaptations are for original cultural products that can imitate, question, rewrite, or interpret source material. That's the statement that pretty much sums up everything that we've been complaining about. Right there. That's what it is. That's the mindset. That's the philosophy that ruins all these legacy IPs that we know and love. Each adaptation is a new text, and each is an opportunity to update outdated and unacceptable tropes and find ways to represent and normalize non-white characters. As adaptation theory scholar Linda Hutchian has shown, adaptations the pleasure of repetition with variation. So they're pretty much saying that it's totally acceptable and actually should be promoted to make these adaptations more like the modern day, which doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense at all, because if you want to make it more realistic and more representative of the world that we live in today, then why are there all these fantastical creatures? Why are there even elves, dwarves, hobbits? Why are there all these things? Just make it all human. Just make it like present day, right? Just make it like modern day. Make it reflective of real life. That's what you want to have, right? If that's your argument for having all these race swaps and gender swaps and stuff like that, let's just go ahead and make everything like real life and not make it fantastical at all. In fact, don't even make it a fantasy movie anymore. Don't even make it have the sci-fi elements anymore. Just have it normal movie, real life, set in modern day. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid argument. Here is a tweet from the Tolkien professor who went on a YouTube channel. I don't think it was the Prime Video one. It was some other YouTube channel where he went on to promote the Amazon Rings of Power show. And he pretty much said that Tolkien, like I said, like they said in the other article, Tolkien never actually described the female dwarves as having beards. But right here, he contradicts himself, and he says a clarification on dwarf women. Tolkien says that they look just like dwarf men. He also clarifies later concerning beards that all male dwarves had them. Therefore, by proxy, right here he says, Tolkien explicitly did not imagine dwarf women as bearded. But he just said, Tolkien says that they look just like dwarf men. In the same tweet, he says all male dwarves had them. If they look just like dwarf men and all male dwarves have beards, then by proxy, dwarf women all have beards. It's so simple. He contradicts himself in his own tweet. It's so ridiculous. Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV show reacts to diversity backlash from Tolkien fans. Everyone's writing about this. Everyone knows that all the Tolkien fans out there don't like the diversity. Like I said, not because it's diversity. And inherently, diversity isn't a bad thing. We can all agree. It's just the fact that it's done in such bad faith. Check in on the ratios real quick. Let me refresh this just to make sure it's totally up to date. 23,000 likes to 55,000 dislikes on the UK version. And then we go to the US version, which is, it's pretty crazy. This ratio is pretty crazy. 28 million views, and I got ratioed this hard, and it's getting worse every single day. 104K likes to 149,000 dislikes. Crazy ratio. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole situation. What do you think about the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power series? Just being blamed. The fans are already being blamed for the failure of this show before the show even comes out. It's like, what, 4 or 5 months out still, and the fans are already being blamed for the failure of this show. I can't wait to see what happens next with this show, man. I can't wait to see what happens next with this whole situation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, though, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, the link to that will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.